Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt, and I'm here in Chicago for Mama's fall favorites. And one of them is the Kia Sorento. This has been newly updated, or at least the hybrid was newly updated for this year, but I've been spending the day with it, and I'm going to walk you around some of the best and the rest. It's got some pretty stiff competition. New things like the Crown Signia, old things like the Honda Passport, but I think that's getting refreshed. But anyway, we're going to cover the best and the rest and go for a bit of a drive. Let's get into it. Now, I mentioned a couple competitors, but there's one I didn't mention, and it's not the elephant in the room, but the cousin in the room. We just had a week in the Santa Fe, which is new for Hyundai for this year, and that is the cousin vehicle to this thing, and that thing was near perfect. And it just does a couple little things better than the Sorento here. Like for one, the trunk is slightly smaller than in the Santa Fe. The third row here is slightly smaller than the Santa Fe. You can't get a head-up display, but you can in the Santa Fe. But, all of that's being said, but the styling on the Santa Fe isn't for everyone. Paulo hates the rear, so the Sorento might be a stronger option for him because this, it's hard to argue, that it doesn't look good, because it does. But there's another thing that we should talk about, and that's pricing. Now, the non-hybrid Sorento, which is what we have here, starts at $32,000. Cool, that's almost $2,000 less than the Hyundai comparison, engine disparities aside. But still, nice. If you want to spend less money and still have one of the biggest, best midsize SUVs in the class, this is a good option. The hybrid, though, starts at $38,700 in this Sorento, which is almost $2,000 more than the Hyundai Santa Fe hybrid. But one of the positive things is you can get a PHEV here. You can get a plug-in hybrid version of your Sorento now, which starts at $48,000, which is a lot, but the Hyundai doesn't have that option, at least not yet, so I'll very much allow it here in the Sorento. And normally I wouldn't put this as its own standalone category on the con side, but I really don't like this. I get it's in some modern Kias. This isn't new by any means. This is in the EV6, but we're in climate control mode here. And when I turn the car on, the radio was playing and I like it quiet so I can kind of hear what the engine sounds like. So I went to go turn this down and then I just made it cold because it's in climate mode. So then I had to put the climate back to where I wanted it and then go into media mode, and then I could adjust the volume. I just don't like it. It's just a little bit annoying. And then I think it defaults back into climate mode, or you can set it to default whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever you adjusted the last time is going to adjust the same thing when you go and reach for this knob again. But switching gears and talking about the positive things about the Sorento, we're going to start under the hood because there's a few options that you can get here, more than you can get than in the Santa Fe. There's a base engine, a 2.5 naturally aspirated four-cylinder, 191 horsepower, 181 pound-feet of torque. You can go up to what we have here, the 2.5 turbo, obviously adds a turbo, which gets you almost 100 more horsepower at 281, and well over 100 more pound-feet of torque, 311 pound-feet of torque. But let's say you want a hybrid variety. We can get a normal conventional hybrid like we saw in the Santa Fe. 1.6 turbocharged four-cylinder, 227 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque, looking about 34 to 36 mpg depending on front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But then where the Sorento comes in versus the Santa Fe is you can get the plug-in hybrid, which takes that 1.6 turbo, adds a 14 kilowatt hour battery pack, 261 horsepower, that's a bit more horsepower, 258 pound-feet, same pound-feet, but 30 miles of electric range. So you do get more options here, and most notably the plug-in hybrid that you can't get from the Santa Fe, at least right now. And to be honest, that would definitely be something that I'm interested in if I'm shopping for something like this Sorento. But another pro for this Sorento is the styling. Now the Santa Fe, I think, looks pretty good, but not everyone is on board with the rear end styling of that thing. I get it. It's a little less conventional, it's more polarizing, but this Sorento here is pretty undeniably good looking, I would say. It's very geometric. You've got Kia's new interpretation of their tiger nose grille. I don't remember what this paint is called, but I do like it. It's like a pale green. It looks really, really cool. And it looks even better with the amber running lights that are like jagged, really modern looking. 4-pod LED projectors up here. Some black accenting down beneath, but some like gunmetal style tiger nose grilling going on. I like the brushed aluminum badging up front. We'll come around to the sunny side of the car. 19-inch wheels, very handsome. They look kind of inspired from the EV9 that we drove earlier. Front fender badge, black window treatments, black wing mirror, black roof rails. But the profile itself, again, a little less boxy than you would get in the Santa Fe, but this looks a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more sporty, and a little bit more modern, I would say. The C-pillar, you do get this fang here, which depending on how you spec your car will stand out less. And then of course your rear end, fairly familiar from last year, but you do have full LED taillights here. You've got your X line, so this is your off-road trim, if you couldn't tell. One exposed exhaust port, some black cladding down here for some protection, but overall, I would say a pretty handsome vehicle. And the rear end definitely looks better than the Santa Fe. And we'll check out the trunk. It's not here. It's actually down here. You have to hold it for a second, but it is powered. Powered trunk is going to be standard on the hybrids, but here we do have close and lock. We take a look at the space that we have behind the third row here. This is going to be smaller than the Santa Fe, 13 cubic feet, but I would still say this is pretty impressive. Most competitors in this class aren't even bringing a third row, so the fact that we have one here is pretty cool. We've got some grocery bag hangers back here, some tie downs, and then if we want to drop, if you want to drop the third row, just pull that. Super flat floor, really spacious, 38 cubic feet. It feels bigger than that, to be honest, but then just like in the Santa Fe, we can push this button, we can drop the middle row, and then you're looking at 75 cubic feet of space, which is huge. Again, just a tiny bit smaller than the Santa Fe, but basically bigger than anything else in the segment. And this might be a good time to talk about the really plush kind of suede headliner. That's a nice touch. And we'll talk about the overall cabin experience, the materials, the design, how it all works together. I want to start with the seats. Now you can see you get this quilted pattern here. It's almost like a chevron pattern. Really cool. X-line, of course, stitched in, which is quite nice. You can either get gray. This is kind of like a grayish green, or greenish gray maybe. I don't know, whatever is less predominant. It's less green than it is gray, but maybe a touch. But you can also get like a blue interior, super cool. You get power thigh support here. You get memory seats here. They're heated, they're cooled, and the heated steering wheel tops it all off. It's really nice, the features and the luxuries that you get here on this Kia. But in terms of the interior design, very handsome, clean, more modern design. Now, I really like that white interior that we had on the Santa Fe, but this has more of a kind of like conventional, maybe off-road style theme to it with some like synthetic wood throughout the interior. I mean, it looks pretty nice. The materials are pretty good. Look at the quilting and the door cards. You do get the classic Kia center, almost like grab handles. They're not the actual handles that you get from in the Telluride, but you've got your heated and cooled seat rockers up there like you would see from the Telluride, but it's just pretty nice. There's a little bit too much gloss black down here in your center console, but I guess I can kind of forgive that because the rest of the interior is quite nice. We're gonna check out the third row. I'm gonna push this button here. That gets itself out of the way, which is nice. It doesn't totally hinge, so if you do have a child seat, it's gonna squish it, but either way, it's probably okay. It gets out of the way pretty quickly, pretty nicely, and then I can get in. There are only 2 seats. There's only gonna be 2 seat belts back here, but I'll get in at 6'1". Bear with me. I actually have an okay space. I have okay knee room in front of me. My feet are a little high, but not too much. And headroom, if I put my head all the way back, then I do hit a little bit. But if I'm just kind of like sitting with my arm on my knee like this, I'm actually pretty comfortable, so that's all right. I do have a little pocket here, single USB-C cup holder, and then a 12 volt out here. So not quite as many things as we had in the Santa Fe. I don't have vents back here. I don't have a dedicated climate control back here. But overall, if you need to fit someone, even an adult back here in a pinch, they'd be all right. And then when it comes to the technology, you have almost everything that you could want here. The only thing that this is missing that the Santa Fe had head-up display. I'm okay. I do have a really nice fully digital instrument cluster, a bit of customizability, graphics look good, all the information is what I need to see. But you do have the big 12.3 or whatever inch center screen, and it is proper fast. Well, now of course it's freaking out, but it has always been pretty good, even in the other Kias that we've tested. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. You've got a wireless charger down in here. It's not quite as nice as the raised one that we had in the Santa Fe, but still effective, I would say. You've shifted into reverse, And you've got the great 360 cameras that we're used to seeing, even if it is an all-white spec, but that's pretty nice. You also do have a digital rear view mirror. Kind of comes on nice and gently, or at least it did. And then in terms of driver assist, the HDAS system, I think you get HDAS 2.0 now. I think you can get it with the eyeball watcher. Very good system, very good. Even if you can't get it with the eyeball watcher, the HDAS system from Hyundai, Kia, Genesis has always been one of our tops. So very, very good from the technology here. I get everything that I want here. The graphics are good, the software is quick, processing is good, and you get the little features. So you get like the sounds of nature, you get quiet mode, you can get a weather app. And now that you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, this little button down here, you can toggle between just charge or charge and use CarPlay, or media, I guess you could say. I'll take that. And then in terms of the rear seats, where your kids or everyone is going to spend most of their time, you do have manual sunshade. That's pretty nice. You also have heated seat, 2 level back here, which is pretty cool. Also, you've got the really nice padded leather that continues back here. The stitching and the two-toning, really, really nice. Bose stereo, Sorento with a little bit of cross-hatching. It's kind of nice. And then we've got our seat controls that we showed you earlier, and then the really nice interior, and the leather continues back here. Cup holder in the door. Not as much of a fan as if it was over there, but we move on. We'll step in, and actually, I have to adjust this because I can recline and slide, which is quite nice. I get map pockets, both sides. I get USB-C chargers, both sides. Vents. I've got chargers down here. And I've got a huge panoramic sunroof that I think you get standard on the SX and for sure on this Prestige here. But the space itself is great. It's one of the biggest in the segments. You've got all this stuff. If you are going to go for the hybrid, it's going to be captain's chairs as standard like we have here, no bench. But overall, pretty good. Hard to complain about the space back here. This definitely feels like one of the biggest in the segment with its sister, the Santa Fe. The Passport is going to be no third row. The Crown Signia, no third row. So this is definitely encroaching into that like conventional Highlander or Pilot size, while the Palisade and Telluride get bigger to compete with things like the Grand Highlander. So I've been sat here at this light. I can see my amber running lights in the reflection of this Mazda in front of me. I also just saw a K5 go by with amber running lights and a Telluride go by with amber running lights, and I'm realizing something about myself. It's that I like amber running lights. It does suggest motorsport, and it's also just different. I just like that it's different from everything else on the road. I'm tired of white. Yes, Audi, you do cool things with lights. Make them amber. Make them purple, I don't know. Let's bring back underglow and colored headlights. Actually, I think that's illegal. But underglow should be back for sure, I think. All right, it's time to unleash the Sorento. Oh, and a full 180-degree hairpin on throttle. Oh, yes, yes. Oh. Why would you do that? You know not to trifle with the Sorento. I will say, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with what this thing does performance-wise. I don't know why you would want this thing to be this quick, but it does feel good. It handles well. There's some connection from the steering to the front end, obviously, but it feels pretty natural. It feels pretty progressive around a corner. It doesn't fall over. This has a lot less wallow and weight transfer and maybe suspension travel than you would get in the Santa Fe. So this definitely feels a little bit more keyed up, a little bit more ready to dance if you want to have a dance. Does it sound amazing? But that's fine. I think one of the things that's really nice and what people will like about this is the dashboard is really low. So the visibility out front is fantastic. I have a great seating position. I can sit up high and I can basically see like immediately in front of my front bumper. It's fantastic. The wing mirrors are great size. The rear glass is super easy to see through. You've got a huge panoramic sunroof bringing in all this light, making the cabin feel airy and spacious. There's a lot to like here. It doesn't feel quite as open and spacious and cavernous as the interior of the Santa Fe. We're making way too many comparisons to the Santa Fe. I apologize, Kia. But it does feel well thought out, well appointed, and well designed. Everything in here makes sense. And a lot of these buttons are physical, they're tactile, aside from the silly climate or media thing. I like everything else about the interior. I like that you have a physical shifter. It's nice, it works. There's storage in places that I think there should be. The ride is good without being too wallowy or too punishing. So I think they've hit the Goldilocks zone in terms of ride. I do need to spend more time with this at home and do some more extensive testing. And just spend more time like living with this thing. But first impressions, raw impressions at the Mama Fall Fest, positive. Quite positive about this Kia Sorento. Here we go. Oh my God. Oh, it's quick. It moves off the line. Oh yes. Overwhelming front tires. Look, it's pretty good. I would like to have a go in the hybrid. And on top of that, I would love to see what the plug-in is all about. Because I really do think, for where we are right now, plug-in hybrids make so much sense. But I did rant about it in the Lexus video that I shot today. If you get a plug-in hybrid, plug it in! Don't pay for a first-class ticket if you're going to sit in economy. That metaphor is going to get tired. But anyway, very impressed. Love the engine and powertrain options that you can get here. There's so many choices. I think it looks great. The interior is great. The space is awesome. There's a lot to love about this thing. So thank you to Kia again. Thank you to Mama for having me out. And we'll see you in the next one.